Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of the Hump Day Hiatus, your weekly pause from body shaming and expectations. A little time for us to just be ourselves and be with one another. Um, this month's core element from body trust practice that we're chatting about is externalizing shame, blame, and bias. And to help us dive into that a little bit more and touch on a few other topics, we have Anna Chapman with us today.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, Anna.
So
So,
happy to be here.
so Anna is joining us from Portland, Oregon, and she is a body and size advocate. And she also is a movement teacher. And I met Anna through Be Nourished when I started my training with them. And yeah, instantly became a big Anna fan. And so we're gonna get started and dive right in. Um, so, Anna, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit with us about maybe a little bit more about the work that you're doing at the moment and how you were drawn to it.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting ride, just kind of seeing um how fat positivity has sort of come into my life. When I started, I I really started on this quest to like, how do I actually, to be honest, I started on a quest of really feeling like, how do I um get into a relationship with another person when I hate my body so much, and like, how do I because I was an avid Googler. So for a long time I would Google like how to how to love yourself or how to find love, and they kind of were synonymous. And I don't totally believe this now, but there was a lot of articles that were like, no one can love you until you love yourself, which I think is a really harsh um, thing. And I think there's a lot of relationships in which people can find a more loving relationship with themselves through the eyes of someone connecting with them.
Mhm.
But at the time I was like, I so believed this thing. So I like muscled my way into like self-love and sort of like figuring that out. And every day I was like, okay, what am I going to read? How am I going to do this? Um, and what felt like a lot of faking it till I made it kind of situation. And then but what was cool is I just kept collecting and finding these interesting people and books and articles, and it kind of took me on this wild goose chase of finding not only that I was totally worthy and lovable just as I am in whatever size my body is, but that I was taught, as so many of us are, that my body was a problem before I even had autonomy or an idea about how to have a body. And so that led me to yoga, which has become a really great doorway for me to share about creating a space in which our bodies can exist without judgment. Um, because I think that the idea is so big, this idea that we can love ourselves, especially as female identified folks in our current culture, that there's just so many ideas that are sold about how we could make ourselves better or look better or be thinner or um, just make ourselves different in some way. And so that led me to I worked with Be Nourished for 2.5 years. I still do some work with them, but I really was so grateful getting to work with both of them, because I got this immense education in social justice and was really able to see all of the intersections of the ways in which we're oppressed through the patriarchy and through the ways that our systems are sort of built to not help us thrive. Um, and how much privilege I had as a fat white person, as opposed to all of the other ways in which fat bodies can show up. And so I both wanted to use that privilege to help create more conversation and space in which folks could talk about the trauma of living in a larger body. And so about 2 years ago, I started working, just doing some consulting for a company called Join, which is trying to create a really inclusive model for movement. And so this past fall, I've been able to share my work through yoga and doing I have a class here in Portland called Body Love Yoga, and so now it's online, and it's amazing to see how many people really resonate with this messaging and how new it is. I think I have created this little social bubble around me where it's like I'm shocked when I hear fat shaming or body, negative self-talk. Like, it's almost alarming because I've really created this bubble around myself. But it's been amazing to get to share that work and have have a team behind me helping me kind of get that out. And we have like over 400 people who've signed up, so it's really cool.
Amazing. And I love, I find it interesting that part of your process to where you're at now included yoga, because I know often that can be some place, or community where folks often feel even more shame or blame around their bodies and how they show up.
Yeah, it was interesting because I kind of I came into yoga when I was highly obsessed with the idea that my body was a problem that I had to fix. And so I was doing really intense movement. Like I did CrossFit for a while. I was doing like this sort of like extreme running, and I realized, I was like, oh, I think I need something that's like a recovery, sort of less active movement, but I definitely can't not move today. And so I came into yoga as if it was this sort of low impact movement that I could do between my like real workouts.
Right.
And what I found initially was, oh, this is actually really difficult. Like, to do any form of yoga, it's all body weight, it's like um the physical practice of asana is challenging, and you can make it as, you could do all of the fundamental shapes, and they can be, even a standing posture where you're just standing can be really a working posture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found, oh wow, this is like a lot different of a form of movement, and yet I'm feeling, these intense muscles I haven't felt. And so it started very physically. And then once I kind of got into the routine of that, I started noticing these more subtle internal shifts of, oh, I feel like I'm more aware of my body in a new way. And I think because of the way I was using movement to sort of try and get my body to fit in this space in which I thought it needed to be, I was disassociating. And so I didn't have much body awareness at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was yoga that kind of brought me from this bodiless head down into my body. And I actually found a lot of pain and some of the trauma that I hadn't had the capacity to be with. I found a lot of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And through being with that, I started to be like, this is amazing that I can experience so many things in such a quiet space with other people. And then I started to look up, like, for probably the first year of yoga, I didn't ever notice who wasn't like, it was such a time for me to sort of be like, whoa, I have all these feelings and all of these things, and some of them are great and some of them are horrible. That after about a year of being like, whoa, what is this? I looked up and I was like, whoa, why am I the only one in here that's in a larger body? And then I kind of went on a search because I thought, I'd like to see how this felt in a practice with a bunch of bodies that looked like mine. Because I had to modify all of the postures to fit my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I figure this out without having to do it myself totally, and get some sort of I wanted some expert advice, or a teacher who got it. Luckily, I had a teacher who never shamed me and who always would say, like, I would go up after and I'd be like, well, my leg doesn't do that. If I did this instead, would this be like the pose, or would I do the right thing? And she always said, then that's a pose for you, or I love what you've done, that's perfect. Like, her name's Rosie Acosta, shout out to Rosie. She actually just today I saw she's on the cover of Yoga Journal, which I thought was really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, so she was a great neutral space where I could explore that. And then I found that there's so few larger bodies practicing. And what I find interesting is that there's twofold places of where larger bodied yoga teachers are. There's one group which is very much dedicated to showing you that your body size does not change your practice. You can do everything that you need to do. You could do more. And I think it's beautiful and it's impressive. And I love being inspired by what their bodies can do. I fall more in the camp of, how do I support folks who are really struggling with, where do I start? How does this work for my body and for differently abled folks? Like, if you're in a wheelchair, there are so few options, and yet there's so many things you can do from a chair,
Yeah.
um, to feel that embodiment, and to just center yourself. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this practice, is it really can be done by anybody. It can be done even with no movement. Like, it's so hard to watch how yoga has been co-opted as this exercise modality in which you could like feel zen and fierce, when really it's like this ancient um tradition of a sort of way of living your life, and just one of the spokes of this sort of wheel of how to live your life is the movement practice. And it's really just to tire out your physical body and your mind so that you can meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is hard to watch, that all the focus is brought to the physical body versus this other way of like existing in the world as you are. I also sometimes struggle with the appropriation of yoga, and
Yeah.
how I try my best to really create a new way of using those tools to give people more mobility and movement in their day-to-day life. Like, my goal is not to do a handstand. My goal is to walk to the grocery store without a bunch of back pain, and that's why I practice yoga. Or um, to be able to pick something up off the floor or tie my shoe, or like, I think when we break down that, we can create more space for a fuller life. And my really top secret reason that I do yoga is because it is the only way that I truly can come into my body fully. And it's like my focus method of how to teach my body that it's safe to exist in here. And that whatever feelings or emotions or physical sensation comes up, like I can handle it. And that takes a lot of practice because we are in a society where there is a fix or a trick or a something for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this immediate grasping when there's a trickle of discomfort, and that makes it so hard to really be with tough things when we're so conditioned not to um, be okay with not being okay.
Yeah, I think that's definitely definitely something that yoga offers me as well, which again, isn't about the physical. It's not about the asana. It's about, for me, it's about noticing and sensing and feeling and being present and finding those moments which then allow me to carry that forward into other areas.
Totally. Um, and I think that what yoga also teaches me is that when the suffering happens in avoiding,
Mm-hmm.
and I have literally learned this lesson every month, every year, and I think I will continue to learn this because it's really hard. But that even if I do all the right things, even if I am the best version and the A student of my life, things are never going to always be rainbows and glitter. Like that is something that is so hard for me to, like, my little ego. It's like, what do you mean? I like did all the right things. I read all the right books and still like I feel painful things. And what my practice has helped me do, and yoga was my doorway into a more spiritually open place. I also have um, a, a, a practice and a spiritual community that I learn from. It's called the Diamond Approach, and so 5 times a year I go up to Seattle. I have a meditation group, and so like I didn't just find yoga, but it was my entry point kind of into myself and into a more soulful based um, work and living kind of situation. But the cool thing about yoga and practicing being with whatever is coming up is that I'm less impacted by the ebbs and flows of those different feelings. So even when there's an exuberantly joyful feeling, I'm not constantly like, don't go away, don't go away, don't go away. And when there's a really painful feeling, I'm not like, get away, get away, get away. I try my best and I'm, human. But to be like, okay, this is here, like, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the joy. And I find that I'm a lot more skilled at navigating negative feelings than really joyful ones. Um, and I think it's because I've spent my life chasing the joy. And when the joy comes, I'm like, oh my God, don't go away. And I get sad, like thinking it's gonna leave, and I miss out on that like very authentic feeling of this is good right now. So yoga and or even meditation practice, that's really helped me be more even keel. Um, but there's no miracle cures.
No, there is not.
If you find them, tell me right away.
I would. There's just going through, right?
Oh,
And I love how you touched on the what I have found in my life and articulate it as um, detachment, right? So you can be in those joyful moments and in those painful moments, and still still have a piece of you that is present and not always grasping and reaching for what's either in the past or possibly in the future, and can still find that connection to yourself.
Yeah. And it's taken a lot of work of understanding, like, okay, who am I taking myself to be in this moment? Like, I can so easily, like, my favorite is this little, like, 3-year-old Anna who's just like, I want it now and I need it and I cannot listen to reason. And so I've started to track, like, okay, when I'm feeling this desperation of like, I need this, I need it, what's actually happening? Um, and sort of teasing that apart has been really interesting. And I'd like to say it's such a privilege to be able to have the space to really cultivate that relationship inside with myself. And I wish it weren't. I think it should be taught in schools. I think it should be taught just like math. I think
Absolutely, I totally agree.
self and body awareness is super important. Um, but it's not taught. And so I've been really trying to continue to like remind myself when I come across someone who doesn't have any awareness, or someone who, you know, culturally that's not even available because survival is at the forefront, um, and really extending compassion, and not an idea of like, oh, look at me and how much I feel, and look at this person and how they are not in touch, and really try to extend like, wow, what a privilege I have to have spent time practicing yoga. I know that there are starting to be more programs in which yoga can be shared in different communities, but I really always want to call out my privilege there because it's so. Um, I never want to be that spiritual white lady that's like, oh, peace and love, and like, don't worry, like, it's fine that people are dying for simply existing, being shot by police, things like that. Like, I never want to exclude that. And also, if anyone is watching who's like, I really want to do your body love yoga at home and I can't afford it, please let me know and we'll talk about it.
Awesome. That's amazing. I think I'm going to do your body love yoga at home.
Yay! Low key, it's only for the US, but if you just do it, it works in Canada.
Okay, well, I'll keep that on the DL.
But you didn't hear from me.
And so painful experiences, we've talked, that has come up a couple times. And so I feel like in some of those painful experiences are going to be descending upon us with the beginning of the holidays, and gatherings and get-togethers that we're going to be having, or attending. And then on the other side of that as well, we have New Year's, right? And all of the I was like,
What's
bring that piece in too.
This is just a side note, but we're talking about how we're going to kind of what to do for body love next year. And this is all off the record, even though people are watching this. But I was like, can we take off January? Like, I want to have that month be like, why don't you take this? and rest.
Yeah.
Because it's such a clusterfuck. Just the emotions of, and I want to call out, in around Christmas time, there's a lot of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you know, have traditions that involve folks that are no longer with us, or you don't have a connection to family and it's such a family oriented time, or you're estranged from your family, um, or you feel really lonely, like this is a tough time. And so with the Body Love yoga community, I really wanted to call out, like, hey, let's buddy up, let's be there for each other, because it's a triggering time. It's a time when I know for myself, I get wrapped up in this energy of scarcity, and like, and my birthday is 5 days before Christmas. So even as a kid, it was like, this is my time. Like, I have to have everything. I get all the treats and all the gifts, and
Yeah.
I have to really keep myself at bay. Even this week, I noticed that I was spending money, and I'm like the worst at buying things for myself around this time because I'm like, it's my birthday, like treat yourself. Um, but I get caught up in like the sales and the like
Oh yeah.
idea that the spirit of the holidays is buying people things, and like buying people these useless like candles that they don't need, because I was like, I have
Mm-hmm.
to get a gift for Susan. Like, no. So this year I am opting out. I'm actually going to
Awesome.
Mexico City, with another lovely human who I met through the Body Trust program.
I think I might know who that is.
And so I definitely have felt the holiday bullshit. But what I really want to do is remind people that your body is not a family conversation. What you eat is not up for discussion. And if you continuously put yourself in positions with family where that keeps happening, like, know that you can opt out and you can create a new tradition. Um, you can eat whatever you want any time of the year. Like, you can have Thanksgiving dinner in February. Um, but we get so tied to these holidays and these ideas, that it just becomes this like big ordeal. I know, like as a kid, my family was very I was really restricted of what I could eat.
Mm-hmm.
We were the hummus family, we were the not processed food family, and I was a kid and I was like, this hummus is bullshit. Like, I want Wafers, I want normal kid snacks. But on my birthday, I was able to have whatever I wanted. Like, it was a free for all. And it really created this like annual binge that I sort of participated in and was almost celebrated by my parents.
Yeah.
So I really want to give people permission to opt out if it's too much, to take care of themselves, especially anyone recovering, um, or identifying their eating disorder. It's a really tough time. Everything is available, and there's still so many parameters, especially like this idea that we're supposed to just gorge ourselves for 1 month, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's 1 month of this like aggressive body shaming, like in January you are going to pay the penance for the month prior. Like, when you look at it from a bird's eye view, it really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Um, what I love about the holidays is coming together, connecting with people, um, but that's not always available. So I really want to always talk about the elephant in the room, which is you don't have to do that. You don't have to participate. You can advocate for yourself. I think Jess Baker, the militant baker, has a holiday guide where you can actually like print out signs for your
Oh
family.
yeah, she
Like
does.
say things like um I don't even remember. I was looking at them the other day because I love that idea and I think that what she says is great. Also Be Nourished has a lot of great posts on the blog about dealing with family and food. So there's a lot of resources if this is something that you're like really being nervous about. Also, if you're flying to go visit family, um, that can be really traumatic. And I will say, Southwest, they have a customer of size policy that has been so nice. In which, if you buy a ticket and they have a seat available, even if there's like two seats left when you get there, you automatically get one. You get to pre-board. Um, you can even buy a seatbelt extender online, so you don't even have to deal with
Right.
anyone saying anything. Um, but really giving yourself the morning before you fly to like center and ground and remind yourself that you're amazing, having snacks that you love that make you feel comforted, having a drink, things like that are really ways in which I can minimize the trauma of traveling, but
Mhm.
it's always there. I know when I have to get on a plane, I'm gonna have to talk to someone or say something or advocate in a certain way. So just really preparing myself in the morning before I do that is helpful for flying.
Yeah. And then I know you've mentioned a couple resources. I'd also like to add on Linda Bacon's site, she also has a letter for family and friends,
Oh, cool.
which is there in all of her free resources. Um, and yeah, something else I wanted to just touch on as well is so for folks who feel that it's not an option to opt out, um,
Sure.
aside from these letters, right, and these documents or the posters and things like that that Jess Baker has, is there anything else that um, you would like to share or offer for them to do during, the holidays when they're with their family,
Yeah.
or even maybe before they gather?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I want to offer, whether they are accessible in your family of origin or not, I don't know. So if you have a family that's pretty receptive, I do. And a couple of times I've specifically talked to my mom. That's kind of the tension point of food that I feel and sort of being policed. And that's a really hard feeling is when I feel like someone is watching me. Was I've said, hey, I'm actually really a little nervous about this holiday dinner. And what I need you to do is to not look at me when I'm eating, not um, say anything about the amount, either the how much or how little, and sort of really set that boundary of like, I'm really trying to work with my relationship to food. And when I feel like you're putting input in there, it's hard for me to connect to what I'm feeling in this meal. So that's something that, and I've set that boundary and it's sometimes over run over, and that's really difficult, but people are people. So that's happened. I've also not set a boundary, had an experience, exploded at the dinner table and left. That's not the cleanest option, but it is an option. um, Freaking out and yelling at everyone and then leaving in a huff is an option. um, silently escaping is an option. Okay, I'm just joking. But also internally, sometimes when I put myself in situations where I know they don't understand what I'm going through, they can't understand what I'm going through, I will just internally have a little mantra that's like, I am safe, or I can do this, or something like that, that I just say. And it's something that kind of soothes my internal, it keeps me from getting into fight or flight during the meal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of soothing to myself. And really, if we're at a traumatic dinner where there's no violent, like nothing is, the only trauma is emotional, having a little mantra or something that you can say that's like, I'm safe, I'm safe, I am safe, can kind of keep you protected, to get through the meal. I also really recommend that people who have access get a good therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and talk through some strategies like this with them, or just talk about the things that are making them nervous, because having expressed or walked through the different scenarios before I face them is sometimes a nice way to remind myself that it's going to be okay. Um, and bring in a friend. When in doubt, bring a friend who you can look at and who can just be the like, yeah, this is fucked up, but we can do this together. Bring a partner, bring a friend, bring a support animal. Make yourself as comfortable as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you have a family that is difficult, but you feel like you can't opt out, um, make your trip as short as possible. Make it about the dinner, make it the day, make it the weekend, and then go back to your sanctuary and have your own sort of regrouping Christmas time, Hanukkah time, Kwanzaa time, whatever you celebrate or participate in. Those are my tips. When in doubt, just
Awesome.
yell at everyone and storm off, though. I've done it
In
so many.
my MO occasionally. A mantra might have helped in that scenario. That. I may find myself employing that this year at Christmas over the holidays.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, I just want to be mindful of the time, and just ask if there's anything else before we go our separate ways that you'd like to share, add on.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that it's not your fault. The fact that you feel these ways, or you're having to like preemptively plan, it's not your fault that you are feel like your body is up for discussion at family gatherings and events. Um, and know that it's, you didn't do anything wrong, and this is a reality of the state of our culture currently. And there are so many people actively trying to help change that so that it's better for you. But if you do feel, um, particularly like it's really tough, know that whatever you do to support yourself is the right thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
And for anyone looking to follow Anna, see more of her, you can find her on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I am Anna Chapman.
Not Twitter. I locked myself out and now it doesn't work.
Facebook, Instagram, and then also if you want to check out her website, it's iamannachapman.com. And then for the Body Love Yoga, how do we find you to join in there?
It's bodylove .join.co. So it's not com, it's co.
Okay. And join is JOIN.
JOYN.
Okay, that's what I thought. So JOYN.co. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here, Anna. I'm so glad that you joined me.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. I'll be back next week, same time, same place, with Sydney Bell, who is a registered social worker, and business is called Embracing the Body Divine. Thanks so much. We'll see you then. Bye.